Welcome, Totem Pole Nation. It's Lambo and Lambo's World of Sports, presented to you by Sideline Sports Network. We're going to be talking about the NFL today and who's going to win the NFC South. Ladies and gentlemen, the NFC South is probably going to be a terrible division this year. Okay, you're talking about the Atlanta Falcons, the Carolina Panthers, the Bucs, and the Saints. That is not a very good division. It wasn't a good division last year. Okay, it wasn't a good division at all last year. Now, the question comes down to the quarterbacks. Okay, you got Dennis Allen. I think he was in his third year as the head coach for the Saints. I think it's his second or third year. Frank Reich got hired to be the Carolina Panthers head coach. Arthur Smith is in his third or fourth season, and he's on the verge of being on the hot seat. Am I missing anybody, by the way? The Bucs. Todd Bowles in the second full season as the head coach after Bruce Arians gave him the job once he stepped out in 2021 after they had Tom Brady. They had a losing record with Tom Brady. They fired Brian Leftwich last year, but it's a new season. Who's going to win the NFC South? You know, in Lambo's World of Sports, I like the quarterback position. It comes down to the quarterbacks. The quarterback position, who has the better quarterbacks? Okay. Bryce Young, Baker Mayfield, Desmond Ritter, and Derek Carr. Well, ladies and gentlemen, Derek Carr is the best quarterback in the NFC South. Let me name this again. Baker Mayfield, Bryce Young, Desmond Ritter, Derek Carr. Derek Carr, who gave his heart and soul out to the Raiders, who abandonedly let that man go. Derek Carr, ladies and gentlemen, is the best quarterback in the NFC South. Ladies and gentlemen, the New Orleans Saints will win the division this year. New Orleans Saints, I'm not saying they're back, but they have a quarterback. They have a quarterback. Jameis Winston was hurt last year, and he somewhat struggled, and he wasn't the guy. Taysom Hill wasn't the guy either at quarterback, but you re-signed Cam Jordan. They have a really good, strong defense under Dennis Allen. He's a defensive coach. They have good wide receivers. Michael Thomas will be back. Alvin Kamara will be back after a 3-game suspension that he's currently serving for the first 3 games of the season. Ladies and gentlemen, the New Orleans Saints will win the NFC South. How do I feel about the Carolina Panthers? Okay, the Carolina Panthers will somewhat improve. Frank Reich is the head coach. Frank Reich has done a decent job with the Colts, despite all this quarterback controversy. They didn't know who to start the quarterbacks, why he got fired. They started a lot of quarterbacks. So you know how that goes. I don't respect the Carolina Panthers offensive line. Watching them on Hard Knocks getting raped by the Jets is awful. So, in my opinion, I'm going to sit here and say that the Carolina Panthers O-line needs a lot of work. A lot of work. They have a very good defensive line, very good linebackers. I'm not sold in the secondary at all. I don't think the secondary defense is part of the weakness. I think that has somewhat been fixed. But we'll see how it goes with the Carolina Panthers. The Atlanta Falcons, ladies and gentlemen. The Atlanta Falcons have been a disappointment ever since they made it to the Super Bowl in 2016. They did apparently nothing after the Super Bowl collapse. They got rid of Matt Ryan after 2020. They thought Marcus Mariota was the answer. If you watched Quarterback on Netflix, that guy was not the answer. That guy was not the answer. So Marcus Mariota last year wasn't the answer, and they drafted Desmond Ritter out of Cincinnati, who was, I think, a third-round pick. I think it's third round, 79th pick to be exact. So the Atlanta Falcons have a lot of work they have to do. They have Bijan Robinson at running back, so that'll be something special. But the receivers, I think they still have Cordell Patterson as a receiver as well. They need to rebuild that because Arthur Smith's job is definitely on the line. So Falcons, I'm not really sold on. I think the Falcons have a losing record again. Arthur Smith gets fired. They will re-transformation that program because they're building a new stadium. With the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Baker Mayfield is your starting quarterback, okay? Baker Mayfield, I guess you could say he's a bust. But out of respect, if you watched the previous episode of me and my brother Matthew, I guess what he was trying to say that it was very unfair what they did to Baker Mayfield. He played with a torn labrum on his shoulder. He played hurt. But that's a different subject for later. But Baker Mayfield beat out Kyle Trask. Um, Baker Mayfield has receivers. So to be honest, the Bucs. I'm not saying the Bucs are going to win 12 games, but you have Mike Evans, you have Chris Godwin. Um, you shouldn't be bad at all for the offensive side. The defense, they still got Devin White, all those guys on the defensive end. They have very, very good corners. So the defense is not going to be a problem. The offensive line might be a little bit shaky because of the injuries they get on the offensive line. But as far as Baker Mayfield, you have Mike Evans, you have Chris Godwin. You have no excuses not to have a somewhat productive season with those type of wide receivers. So for the Bucs, they should be second in the division behind the Saints. I'm putting high pressure on Baker Mayfield. With that receiver talent, you need to win at least about 10 or 11 games for the Bucs. With all that receiving core and all the receiving talent you have. So who won the NFC South? I would say the New Orleans Saints with Derek Carr, and that will be a story this year. Totem Pole Nation, Lambo's World of Sports presented to you by Sideline Sports Network. Tune in. We will see you later on.